Hello, welcome to Brook Lane's Facebook Live presentation, Recognizing Bullying, How to Talk with Your Child. I'm Kurt Miller, Community Relations and Education Manager at Brook Lane. For information on future programs, please visit brooklane.org. You will also find recordings of our programs, of our Facebook Live programs on our YouTube channel, which is available on our website. Excuse me. If you have any questions during the program today, please type them into the comments section and I will relay them to our speaker. Again, thank you for joining us. Today's talk is focusing on bullying. Bullying is a pattern of behavior rather than an isolated incident. And having a conversation with your child about bullying is not easy, but it's very necessary. The most vulnerable children face a higher risk of being bullied, and it can be very harmful and have long-lasting consequences for them. Today's program focuses on starting that conversation and opening communication with your child. Our Facebook Live program is presented by Danielle Roncone. She's a licensed clinical professional counselor providing therapy for children and adolescents at Brook Lane's Laurel Hall School here in Hagerstown. She works with students from all grade levels to develop positive coping skills to deal with everyday stress. Ms. Roncone has a master's degree in counseling and psychology from Troy University. Welcome, Danielle. Thank you for being here today to share with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Kurt. I am Danielle Roncone, as Kurt shared, and we are going to talk tonight about bullying, recognizing it, and talking and navigating talking to your child and communicating about it, and hopefully giving them skills and getting them in the right direction to get them help, because sometimes, as we know, bullying, whether it's child or adult, can be very harmful. The first thing I think we need to do is tackle and get a good definition of what bullying is, what exactly it looks like. There's several different types, and we'll get into all that this evening. First, bullying can come in many different forms. We have joking around, a one-time deal, conflict, and bullying itself. Whether it is joking around, a one-time situation, conflict, or bullying, it could be hurtful and should be taken seriously. Joking around obviously involves two people who are at the same level, social level. No one is, higher. No one tends to be in charge. It's peer-to-peer, and both people are in on it. A one-time situation obviously is an event that bubbles up. Somebody said something harmful, maybe somebody said something mean or hurtful, but it's generally something that comes from emotion and it's not a pattern of behavior. Conflict, again, is two peers who are at the same level. Neither is higher socially, neither is in charge. They are both peer-to-peer and they are embroiled in a conflict. And again, usually this can be mediated out. Bullying is where you have someone who is at a higher level, a higher social peer, higher social structure peer, who is systematically, consistently bringing that behavior towards someone else. It's very harmful and hurtful and needs to be taken seriously. Bullying can be physical, social, verbal, or it can take place over the internet. Obviously, that's an area that's newer than generations past. Physical bullying is purposely hurting someone physically or their possessions. It could be tripping, it could be hitting, it could be spitting, breaking their things, breaking their items. It could even include threats to break their items. Anytime somebody, touches or any of that stuff, that's going to be in the physical area realm. Social bullying, again, is where you have somebody who's trying to systematically hurt somebody's social standing with peer group within the school. This could be spreading rumors, telling others not to be friends with them, excluding them from events. If they're on a sporting team, it could be excluding them so that they're not allowed to do the drill with them. It could be in the classroom where everybody's picking partners and purposefully the person is encouraging the others not to join in. They're encouraging the other children in the classroom maybe not to talk to that student. It could be embarrassing them on purpose. It could be teasing that both people aren't in on. If both people do not find the joking and the teasing funny, it's not. And if it's happening systematically from a person of a higher social power to another, then that would fall into the social bullying arena. Verbal bullying is saying and writing mean things about a person or a group of people. It can include teasing, name calling, inappropriate comments, taunting. It could be every time you pass them in the hallway, they're systematically just saying things to embarrass them, saying mean, hurtful, cruel things. Cyberbullying, this is obviously all those things that take place over social medias. Any kind of electronic technology. It could be mean text. It could be viral text where they, take an embarrassing photo and blast it to everybody, group chats, or just, again, trying to belittle the person, trying to embarrass them, trying to make them feel less. It could be creating a fake profile on social media and posting embarrassing things that way. It could be them, taking pictures of your student or your child throughout their school days and making it, everyone's business, putting it on their social media. So that way the child is embarrassed and just feels this. The hard thing about cyberbullying is that this often can be very quiet because, you look at your kid, they're sitting on the couch and they have their phone, you don't necessarily hear what's going on. You're not maybe looking at their screen, but they're getting all of this meanness and toxic behavior in their home where they once, used to feel very safe. This also can be very detrimental because this is a whole world that a lot of our youth are just so involved in and so enmeshed in, and it feels very real to them, even though to some of us who didn't grow up with this kind of social media, it might not necessarily feel real. It might not feel like a big deal, but to a lot of the youth, this is, their social construct too. And any kind of embarrassing things put out on social media, as we know, it doesn't go anywhere. So this can have a lot of long-standing effects. When you're going for a job, they will often, check your social media. I believe colleges are looking at your social media presence when they're trying to admit you. So there's a couple different ways that this cyberbullying can just really impact a child's current world, but also future world. And it's often very quiet, again, because it's not something necessarily the adults in the home might be hearing. It's not necessarily something teachers may hear in class, but it's a very big world that the kids themselves are in, and it feels very large to them. Another aspect of bullying is, what if you feel your child is the bully? What if you, maybe teachers have said this word to you that, your child is, maybe not treating others in the classroom the best, or, what if you are hearing some social interactions and you're starting to wonder if maybe your kid is the mean kid? Is your kid the one who is lashing out at someone else? And so obviously this is something to take seriously as well, whether your child is being bullied or your child is the one displaying the bullying behaviors. You're going to want to listen to these interactions in person. Make sure you're checking online to see, what kind of interactions is your child having on their group chats, on their text threads. Are you noticing a pattern of behavior where they're always just teasing or making negative comments? And obviously, checking a child's social media, checking a child's phone, checking a child's text messages is something that is very specific to each family. Families, parents, children all have opinions on this. And there really is no right answer. It really has to be what you feel as the parent is in everyone's best interest. And it's a balancing act because, obviously some parents feel like they, the whole phone is theirs and they should be going through the whole thing. Other parents give a lot of freedoms and just feel that they trust their child and they want to give their child that. And again, there's no right or wrong way. However, if you think your child might be systematically hurting other children, you might have a different opinion. You might want to check into that a little more. And again, you're going to want to open the communication. If you think your child is being mean, if you think your child is struggling socially in this way where they are potentially bullying another student, you're going to want to open the communication. You're going to want to listen. The important thing is listening without interrupting and judging. You're going to want to hear your child's version. You're going to want to hear your child's perspective of what is happening with these interactions. Interrupting, even if maybe what they're saying is really huge and you feel like you need to talk about it, waiting until they've said their piece and then you can say yours so they don't feel attacked. Anytime someone feels attacked, whether it's in a situation where you're talking to someone because you think they're being mean or you think that they're maybe being mean, someone is being mean to them, if they feel judged, they're going to clam up and they're not going to talk at all. Another important thing within the family, take a look inside. As a family, as a parent, as a teacher, coach, are you role modeling non-bullying behaviors with our words and our actions? Are we making fun of people? Are we, systematically bringing down groups of people? Are we, intolerant? Are we not open to people being a little different or outside of the norm? If you as a parent, a teacher, a coach, a role model, are displaying these behaviors, you're telling your kid it's okay. And so if they're going to be doing these behaviors at school, they might not know that it's not okay. This is just maybe the way they've learned to interact. So looking within yourself, your family, your organization, your teams, that kind of thing is imperative. The priority is listen, and always just try to teach positive social interactions. You may not like opinions others have. You may not agree with how they choose to be or live or act or, what have you, but just teaching that, you don't have to like how someone acts or chooses to be, but that doesn't mean you have to, bring them down or make them feel less. Our goal is to teach our children not to judge or punish each other. Again, bullies aren't bad kids. I think sometimes that's been, that's how it feels when you're the one being bullied, is this is a bad kid. If your child's being bullied, it's easy to think this is a bad kid who is hurting other children. It's important whichever side of the dynamic, you're facing, whether you are concerned that your child is the bully or you're, concerned that your child is being bullied. Oftentimes, I found this from childmind.org on the internet. Bridget Katz said it. The child wants to fit in with a group of friends. I mean, that peer pressure, if someone is picking on a classmate, they may not have enough ego strength to reach out and say, hey, this isn't cool, we need to stop this. And so they, may go along with it and even become the bully because, they're afraid of losing standing. Adolescents, middle school, definitely a little bit in high school, even like losing a social standing is so strong. It's their whole world that can really become a driving force. Maybe the child's getting bullied at home or at school, and to get a sense of power back, to get a sense of justice, they're going to be aggressive towards others. They're angry, they're being hurt in other ways, and so they're going to reach out and be angry towards others. Maybe she's looking for attention, teachers, parents, classmates. Maybe they find if they've made a joke at someone's expense, kids have laughed and that made them feel good. So they, systematically figure out in the class or on the team who they can berate, who they can bring down, and that's who they go after. Maybe she's just a little bit more assertive and impulsive. Maybe, some of our friends on the ADHD, spectrum sometimes think it, say it, they just, things may come out and they've not learned to control it yet. They've not learned that it's mean or how hurtful it is on the other end, or maybe they do, and it's just, they haven't learned to regulate some of that. That's still something that they're working on. Some kids maybe just take in others' behaviors and feel like it's hostile. And so they feel like now I have to attack when maybe the interaction wasn't, but they just read kids as everyone out to get them. Everyone's, standing, in my way, and I have to fight for everything I have. Sometimes some of younger kids, they tend to live so much in their own worlds and from a sense of me instead of putting themselves in other people's shoes. And so they may not really understand how that person feels. They may not have that ability to put themselves in someone else's shoes to understand, if I say this every day to Susie, she's really going to feel bad, and that may hurt her for years to come. That may not be a skill some kids have yet or have learned yet. Another aspect to the bullying relationship, whether again it's in a school, on a team, in a family, or what have you, bystanders typically are all around, whether it's cyber and you have the bystanders from the other people on the group chat, the social media wide, people who are on each other's pages or whatnot. These bystanders are the people who are watching this behavior unfold between two students. And that does fall in several different categories. You have outsiders. Again, this is just a definition. They're witnessing the bullying situation. They're watching it from afar. They're not getting involved. It may be, a kid at the other side of class. It may be the person who is doing the bullying behavior's best friend. It could be the person who is being bullied's best friend. It could be someone walking in the hallway, and they're witnessing it and they're not getting involved. The goal for all of us should be to teach our children how to advocate and support one another, and that if they see this, they should, on to the next line, be a defender. They're going to be the ones who are helping, intervening when they see this bullying happen, offering support. It could be privately. They maybe don't have the ability or the self-esteem to speak up publicly, but maybe they're going to reach out to the person who is being mean to the other one and say, hey, I didn't think that was great what you did. That wasn't cool. That was mean. I don't really want to be around that. Maybe they're going to be the, teach your kid to reach out to the kid who was being hurt and say, I'm sorry, so-and-so did that, and how can I help? Maybe it's just that you teach your kid to go tell a trusted adult, this is what I saw today in class, and it really hurt so-and-so's feelings, and it kind of made me uncomfortable, and this is what happened. It could be teaching your kid to be a defender by, if they're watching social media and they see Susie always going after Betty, it could be saying, Mom, Dad, Aunt so-and-so, I am seeing this happened, and I know this is really hurtful. What do I do? How do I get help? Teaching your kid that there's different levels, so that way they feel comfortable, whatever their comfort level is. Maybe they're not a kid who can just reach out. There's someone who's a little bit more reserved. And then you have the reinforcers, who are the ones who may be laughing, encouraging this behavior to happen. They may cheer, whether it's, again, online or in person. These are the ones, they find it funny. And again, they could be doing this for many, many different reasons. It could be because, they're uncomfortable. If this person stops bullying, her, she may turn on me, and I can't handle that. I don't want her to turn on me, so I'm going to laugh. And again, there's so many different dynamics of why someone would reinforce this behavior. And then the next level is just the assistants. These are the people who are helping. Maybe they're, helping to restrain someone so someone else can hit them. Maybe they're, helping them make the fake Facebook page. Maybe they're helping them take pictures. And again, the goal is to talk to your child and just encourage them to be a defender, whatever they're comfortable with, and letting them know that watching is sometimes the same and feels the same to the child being bullied. Having a class full of kids watch and no one helping can also be very hurtful and harming. So now, hopefully we understand what a bully is. It's someone who systematically attacks someone below them socially, who they have power over socially. It's a systematic, consistent situation. It's not a one-time situation. What do? We're going to communicate. We're going to cope with the whys, whether it's why your child is bullying. Is it why your child, what they are bringing to you? What is it that they need help with? We're going to, no matter which side of the coin, we're going to want to look at self and family reflection. Are we a family that's encouraged some mean kind of behaviors inadvertently? Did we not really pay attention to our words or how we were treating others, and maybe accidentally taught that it's okay for bullying to happen? You're going to want to provide meaningful consequences to the child who is doing this behavior, who is hurting another child. And I say meaningful because depending on the child, for example, if they are bullying someone online, maybe a meaningful conversation is all social media is gone or prohibited from them. Maybe in extreme cases, as a parent, you decide that taking their cell phone, if they're going to be treating others online this way, maybe that's what they need to do. Meaningful could be having conversations with the person they've hurt, making amends, just making sure that the consequence given is true and thought out, and really causes a person who is doing this behavior to think and to feel a little bit of the pinch of what they've done, to feel a little bit of the consequence. Making it right. If they were hurting someone who maybe had a different I don't know, lifestyle or something, having them, maybe the child who was being hurt doesn't really want any part of the kid who is being mean. Maybe you just want them to give back to a different community, or if they've said some things, maybe it's publicly, declaring that what I said wasn't true. That was a rumor. I shouldn't have said it. And then as a parent, again, both ways, you're going to want to really make sure that you're monitoring the situation. You're going to want to make sure that, you don't just have a one-time conversation and it's dropped. You're going to want to follow up days, weeks, months after all of this stuff comes to light. And again, I found this from Childmind. It was an an article on what to do if your child is bullying. Now that we understand the bully, how can you support your child? They need communication from you. They need support. The child who has been bullied has probably been, their self-esteem has been really chipped away. Their confidence has been chipped away. And so they're really, really going to need someone to help build that back up. They're going to need someone, an adult, someone they trust and love and that supports them, to show them that they can find that confidence inside. And they also children need support on how to advocate for themselves. We are not born knowing things. We're not born understanding social interactions. It takes the people around us to teach us that. And sometimes I think we just assume that our kids know how to advocate for themselves. And I just don't think that's true. I think they need to learn how to say, assertively what they need, what help they need, so that way they can ask and the adults around them can help them. And they also need a safe place that can be free from bullying. They need a place where they can unplug, especially with the social media piece of all this, where they can't just leave some of this stuff at school, that, it's now infiltrating the home or some of their safer places because they're bringing their phones with them everywhere. So talking about, what fits for that child, how can they create moments, hours, maybe an evening once in a while of unplugged. I'm not going to go into this social media world because, I just need some peace and quiet from that. To communicate, with your child and really with anyone, open-ended questions. These are questions that you're not, it doesn't force a yes or a no. So tell me something fun that happened today, or, instead of saying, how was school? Fine. That fine just is such a conversation ender. It's like, what do you do with that? But making sure you just keep asking those open-ended, like, what happened next? Or, tell me more about that, or, that kind of thing. And the important thing, I think most of us know when we're being listened to, is listening for understanding in the other person's perspective. It does not mean you have to agree. It does not mean that you have to, believe the way they're telling you it happened, but just what is their perspective? If you are trying to ask questions and you're listening to someone and you're trying to ask these questions to have a better understanding of their perspective, it's going to make the person open up more and feel more comfortable talking to you. And again, sometimes this is hard for all of us, allowing space, not interrupting or disputing their facts or arguing their facts as they're speaking. That is the easiest way to shut down any conversation with anyone. And again, where is the comfortable place for a conversation? driving in the car where maybe you're both looking out the front window? Is that something that may be more comfortable than a face-to-face, eye contact to eye contact? A private location versus a public location, where would your child feel most comfortable talking to you? 5 things to talk to your kids about with bullying. I found this from the mindsjournal.com. The bully is trying to take something. Usually it's the self-esteem. That's usually what is being ripped apart. Gather your friends close. Help your child recognize who are their supporters, who are their positive, genuine friends. And sometimes I think our kids have a harder time understanding this. I think maybe some of us adults have a harder time understanding this, but really focusing your child on the positives they have. So they, maybe are only seeing the negatives. And so positives, could include the friend who, no matter what, walks home with them every day and gets them to laugh. Maybe it's the friend that always checks in on them. Maybe it's the friend that always, rolls their eyes at the bullies and gets them out of that situation. Maybe it's friends or church groups or teams, or, just gather the positives around. Always, always, always be aware not to be alone with the bully at any time. Talk to your kid about, you walk into the bathroom and they're there, immediately walk out. Go to a teacher, stand by a teacher. If you don't want to, your child maybe doesn't want to tattle or any of that, maybe just have them be in the view of a teacher or an adult, a trusted adult. That way it could make it a little harder for the bully to get to your child. And it's not something to be tolerated. It is a big deal. It has happened forever. However, I think with the introduction of social media, kids just can't get away from it. And it's not always just a rite of passage or, something that happens, oh, you're in middle school, that just happens. It shouldn't be tolerated. I was in a seminar once where the person kind of likened it to, if you were working in a job and someone was treating you this way, you would quit. Nobody would expect you to stay in that situation. Kids don't always have the same control over their world to just quit. So they're stuck just being abused every day by other children. And to never lose sight of empathy, depending on the situation and the child. Could your child try to brainstorm? Why do you think Betty is always doing this to you? What could be going on in Betty's life that would make her want to attack you? Again, depending on the developmental age of the child and the situation, that might not be appropriate. But for some people, having an understanding, again, it's not right. It's not something that should be tolerated. But having an understanding could help the child feel a different perspective that could help them deal with the bullying a little bit more, make it more about the person doing the bullying and less about them being less as a person. One of the most important things is never, ever, 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 ever just tell your child to ignore it. It doesn't give them any skills. It doesn't help them understand how to navigate this. Remember, this could be a behavior that they wake up to on their phone, the first thing they look at. It could be a behavior that's on the bus as they walk to school, as they walk through the hallways. It could just be relentless. And they have no way to escape it. And telling them just to ignore it minimizes their experience and could make them, again, internalize and make them feel that it's something about them that is lacking. If it's just easy to ignore it, why can't I? What's wrong with me? And it doesn't teach any skills. It doesn't teach your child what to do. And so they're just left out on an ocean alone without any support. Sometimes I think it's important to remember that sometimes having the perfect thing to say is not as important as an adult, someone taking the time to truly try to understand and prioritize their feelings. I feel that this is something to remember both when you're talking to the child who may be displaying the bullying behavior, but also when you're talking to the child who's being attacked and bullied. Sometimes we shy away from serious conversations because we don't know what to say. And again, remembering it doesn't have to be a perfect statement. You don't even have to tell them what to do, but just really trying to be there and understand is such a gift that I think that would be felt and supportive, even if you don't feel like it's enough. I think it for the person who's experiencing that understanding, especially when maybe they've been through all this bullying, it could feel really, really good. And it could be help, it could be the help that they were missing. How do you teach your child to advocate for themselves? Talking about it's okay to ask for help, showing them maybe in your everyday world that I ask for help and it's fine. It's just a part of living. Um, Teaching your child who are the trusted adults and how do you access them. It might not always be their teacher in their classroom. It might not always be their coach. It might not always be, their best friend. It could be, a sibling. It could be their assistant coach. It could be their teacher they had last year. But just really talking to your kid about who they feel comfortable with, who they feel comfortable going to when push comes to shove, who they feel really is in their corner, and trying really hard not to, you can give vague examples, but really let them come up with who they feel trusted, that they has their back. Allowing them a safe place to express themselves without being judged or questioned, allowing them and teaching them how to express their feelings and that it's okay to express those feelings. And again, talking to your child to advocate for their friends and classmates that they see being bullied, and how do you be a positive friend? Just starting those conversations can be a great way to start advocating for your child to advocate for themselves. Building confidence in a child, especially maybe if somebody's been bullied or they felt bullied, teaching your kids how to be confident, teaching it's okay to stand up for themselves. And if they're standing up for themselves with you, allowing them a little bit of space to do that in the parent-child relationship, allowing them to say if there's something they're not happy with. It doesn't mean that you have to give in. It doesn't mean that you have to say, okay, you're right. I'm gonna bend this rule for you, or I'm not gonna make you do your chore. It could just be giving them the space to say, I hate that you make me clean the kitchen, and that's okay. I hear you, but you still have to clean the kitchen. But allowing them to say that helps them be confident that what they say matter and someone will listen. Spending quality time with children. Again, this does not have to be just a parent. It could be, you're a coach and you see a kid who is maybe struggling socially with some of the other team members. It could be you going over and just talking to them at the end of practice. If you're a church leader or youth leader, it could be you notice the kid who sometimes gets shoved out a little bit. It could be just spending 5 or 10 minutes after youth group or what have you. It could be in the classroom. Often we know and we can see the kids who are a little bit lower on the social hierarchy, spending a couple minutes with them. It could make their world. Spending time with kids, that's really all they want is adults' attention. Teaching that people are different. A lot of times teens, youth, high school, middle school even, I think middle school more so than high school sometimes, they're terrified of standing out. Nobody wants to be different. And so for the ones that feel different, that could almost be, like the worst thing ever in their social worlds. And just teaching them, from a young age, just it's okay to be different. We don't have to agree with everyone. We don't have to live the way everyone does, but everyone's different and that's okay. Again, giving them a sense of personal power, teach them not only to recognize the difference between right and wrong, but knowing that if someone in their class, teaching them that if someone in their class or in their peer group is being bullied, that could have lasting effects, and that it's up to all of us to make sure people aren't being bullied, and let your child know just how important being a good friend to someone can be, especially in a situation like this. Creating a safe place, especially, I think with social media and all that, this is important in that identify where do they feel safest. Maybe it's in the house, maybe it's in the backyard, back patio, what have you. Make sure they have their comfort items, talk about maybe your electronics don't need to go in your beanbag in the corner. Maybe it's just your, snuggly blanket, pillow, maybe it's your dog. Why don't we just keep your phone away for like 20 minutes, half hour, whatever your kid's comfortable with. Maybe they have favorite activities. Do they like to color, journal, draw? Is music a big thing for them? What is their fun? What is their fun activity? And then talk about how long are they going to be in this safe place for? If they've had a rough day at school and they just need to center themselves and be comfortable, how long before you're checking on them and talking about that before? Prearrange. How can they come and talk to me Okay, they've gone, they've had a crap day at school, they've come home, they've sat, they've mellowed in their safe place, they feel okay, but now they're ready to talk about it. How do they feel best to do that? Is it going to be journaling, handing you a journal where they've explained it was too much to say, but they can write it and give it to you? Just talking about ahead of time, some of these things can help. That way, you know what your child is expecting, and your child can have some autonomy over telling you, I'm going to need 10 minutes just to come home from school, veg out, shed the day off and just be relaxed before I can really go into what happened or how it was. Always pre-arrange how you can check in with them though. Again, we want to make sure that we're not just ignoring it, that we're following up. I did find some books for children of different ages. We have the 2 to 5 range, Llama Llama and the Billy Goat by Anna Dewdney. Again, this is great for younger kids to start, being aware and just start understanding, especially as they're heading into those preschool years. The Juice Box Bully by Bob Sorensen and Maria Dismondi. This is really was targeted to 6 to 8 years, and it has themes of standing together and not being a bystander. So it's really touching on some of that stuff that we talked about earlier tonight. And then Wonder by RJ Palacio. This is a book and a movie. I've actually used the movie in groups here at Laurel Hall before, just to talk about some of this stuff in our high school classrooms. It's supposed to be targeted towards 13 to 19-year-olds, and it's actually a really good story and movie for anyone that's interested. I did show you guys the covers just in case that any of these resources were something that anybody would be interested in. Where do you turn if you feel you've done all these things, you've had these conversations, and you just don't feel like it's being supportive or helpful? You feel like your kid needs more intervention. Sometimes in the mental health world, we always assume that people just know who we are and what we do. And sometimes that's not true. So the different categories, the different jobs that we all have is there's a therapist, counselor, social worker. These are sometimes all the same. They're synonymous. Most of these people have a master's. Sometimes you can have a doctorate in counseling or psychology, but it's a master's level degree in counseling, social work, or similar. And this is your typical talk therapy, play therapy. You would go to the therapist's office. Usually it's 35, 45 minutes, an hour, depending on the structure of that. It could be once a week, twice a week, but you're talking out your problems, your problem solving, and that such. There's a psychologist, again. Typically, you have your doctorate in psychology, and they typically do testing. However, there's a lot, and some may do talk therapy as well. A psychiatrist is a medical doctor that has specialized in medications that help with mental health symptoms. So they went through med school. They did not take any, if at all, counseling therapy courses. They are not counselors or therapists. Again, I guess there could be a few that do, but typically they are a medical doctor that is treating mental health disease with medications. They do the med management. Those are usually about 15, 20 minutes, just depending, and may see them monthly or even every 3 months, depending on what's going on with your child. I did have some resources of different psychiatric places around Hagerstown for anybody who feels that they maybe this is a route that they feel would be most important for their child. Most of these places do adults as well as children. So just some more resources. And that is all I have prepared this evening. Does anybody have any questions? Are there any comments or questions that anyone has?
Well, Danielle, I want to thank you very much for sharing with us this evening. I think this was very informative, and I like the part where you went over some of the different providers and what their qualifications are to help explain that. I think that's important for people to know.
Thank you, Kurt.
All right. Well, thank you so much. We're going to end for now, and thank you. Hope you'll join us again next time. Take care.